We're greeting. I'm greeting all of you. I'm greeting all of you. I come in peace, my good people. I come in peace. Khotoba. Khotsong. My name is Sandile Omadzikane. Mina ngiyilithetsa, ngiyilivuladlela. Ngikwaka geqa amazwe. Wakwathi sekwagebulebe ethabeni wakuncela ngemhluti imati yansakona. Wakahala emgodleni. Ngimutfu wekupheka tiphimphim leti qhakuba kecawana. Ngimutfu wakalehlatsi lelikhulu lelikatathiwa lelithiwa itife netodzi kuba yito banyinyi balo. Ngingumutfu lathe kwakebulebu emgedzini lakhapha ngemuva etasi. Ndikumfene uhlathi ikhulu elingothiwa silivutha. Ndinguzaba umfene mazabiyo zabelo abafokazi. Ndinguluncu ndingumwandla ndingumandwa afikela uhlangene ndikuntsilane ndingubhulashi ndingubhushulazi ndingusidule ndingungube emhlophe. Ndingusandlalanca. Ndingumzukulwana ke mna ke emapehleni kocabashe konkomo zibomvu kodikana olubisi inkomo zakuloyibeka wakulokani inkomo zikambiko zikamancamu zikamlawu. Ndiyacamagusha ke ndiyabulisa. I greet you all. You guys are gonna tell me if my feed, if you guys can hear. I've just changed my network, so please tell so that I can update my network. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen now in a minute. And we're gonna continue with a lesson we've been doing this whole week. And I'll continue the lesson we've been doing this whole week. I was sharing a picture of myself earlier. It's leg, you know. I'm updating it just now. Give me a minute. My people, you know, there's a lie that people are spreading out there. This lie is that there was an event in the past here in South Africa. This event saw hordes of men coming from outside South Africa. And these hordes of men found women who are ready to make babies for them. And apparently this resulted in men having E1B1A and women having L0D haplogroups. That is the nonsense we're expected to believe happened. That groups of men came into this country, found women who were just ready to be breeding vessels, and these women gave birth to children. And that's the only thing that happened. Nobody tells you which nations these women belonged to. Nobody tells you how these exchanges happened. But they are just telling us that a group of men came, took indigenous women and made children with them. And not the other way around. Not the other way around. And I say that is complete and utter nonsense. We know people, actual people that we can prove and show you in a real world context that, you know, this guy's father was a Khegwi. This guy's father was a Khegwi. And then you're gonna tell me, no, it was only the women. The Khegwi guys didn't know anything about taking wives. It was only the Khegwi women that were taken. That is the nonsense that people are telling us out there that we must believe and follow. The fact that we've got evidence of Amampondo, whose fathers were actually Khegwi. Amampondo Mise, whose fathers, and I'm talking about male, were actually Khegwi. No, that doesn't matter. That's fine. We can ignore that one because it doesn't feed into the narrative that there were groups of men who came to this land and took women and made children. But we see evidence to the contrary. These are a group of men, Khegwi men, who are Amampondo Mise today. Their descendants are told, no, don't worry, guys. You don't matter. What matters is that there were a group of men who made you. But this group of men were Khegwi people. It was Tram men. It was Tram men. So we must ignore all the knowledge that we have of who our ancestors are and follow the nonsense that is going to justify things that never happened here. You know, these two people, this is the son and the daughter of a gentleman called Ubidi. Bidi was a Khegwi rain-making Mpondo man. Yes, I said Mpondo because he was a Mpondo. That was the hegemony he was part of. But his bloodline, he was a Khegwi and he was a rainmaker in the Mpondo kingdom. And these are his children. Ubidi. And Bidi is not the only one. Amongst the Mpondo Mise, we also have evidence of descendants of Khegwi men, descendants of Kwe men. This gentleman here is a Khegwi, Yopi Mabinda. He has descendants who use the same name, the Kubeka and the Gamedze surnames. Right now, today, he has a son who speaks, I think, Zulu, if not Swati. I'm not sure because his surname is Kubeka. I think he speaks Swati. He has a son who speaks Swati. No, don't worry. Those things don't matter, man. West African men came, they migrated and made your women pregnant. We must believe that nonsense that this woman, Umakok, whose father was a painter on the walls. This woman, whose father was a painter on the walls of the Ingu River in Kutsolo, amongst the Amampondo Mise, a Khegwi rock painting artist and specialist. This woman, Umakhulu Makok, she's a Mpondo Mise woman. She's from Utsolo. You know, Utsolo is a Khegwi center. It's a center of Khegwi blood. All over Utsolo, throughout the different clans. We know amongst the Ngabane in that area, the Ngabane clan, you have the Ngabayi surname. Ngabayi, that is the royal house of the Khegwi, the Ngabayi. Yeah, there's Lucanyo there in the comments. There's Nala there in the comments, confirming what I'm talking about. But somehow we must neglect the fact that we have these people. They are our ancestors. They are our forefathers. They are our grandmothers. They are our great-grandmothers. The fact that my great-grandfather was a full-time hunter-gatherer, I must ignore it because don't worry. Bantu, just follow the Bantu migration. Just follow the Bantu migration. So I must ignore this, that this is me. No, don't worry. You are West African, my brother. You are West African. You, Congolese, Bantu supremacy. No, I'm not going to follow that garbage. The fact that my people still cut the little finger today, I can't ignore that. That's my blood. That's who I am. You can ignore the kente cloth guys, ne? You can ignore the Ghanaian kente cloth. You know, in Pan-Africanism, we all have to wear West African clothes. Apparently, when you wear indigenous skin, you are half naked, as per the great Pan-Africanist thinker, Lumumba of Kenya. He said it recently. The half-naked Zulus. I'm like, I mean, you could have said Zulus, half-naked. Now you are actually desecrating indigenous clothing. I thought Pan-Africanism was about putting Africa first. No, it's not actually. It's about putting certain people's ideas first. The Garveys, the Nkrumas. Do you know those people's personal records themselves? Do you know what those people really stood for? That we are being forced to follow their narratives and neglect our indigenous ancestral heritage. So for me, I reject any nonsense that seeks to remove me from the ways of the people who survived here for thousands of years. If they survived here for thousands of years, I know they were doing something right. And that something right is what I'm not going to let go just like that. You want to take my land because I must forfeit who I am so that I can feel. They say for the continent to succeed, you must give up on the tribe. No, that's not what they mean. Is lose your identity, follow our narratives. This is who I am, guys. And I'm showing myself here so that you see me. This is me. I'm not going to follow West African supremacy. Cake Sankara, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying what you should reject or what you should not reject. I'm telling you about my people. People must reject what they want to reject. They must accept what they want to accept. I don't give a screw. I'm not a pastor. I'm not trying to get offering from you or anyone. Follow what you want to follow, Baba. I'm not recruiting anyone. But the story of my people will not end. That's what I'm talking about. You follow what you want to follow, and I don't care. And there's this idea that I'm trying to get people to follow whatever. You follow whatever works for you. If you love Pan-Africanism, go for it. I'm telling you who I am and who my people are. And I'm going to stick with that. If that sits ugly on someone else's little fragile peanut-sized brain, then that's their problem. No, I'm rejecting it, Kek Sankar. I'm rejecting it. I rejected it years ago. I rejected it years ago. And I'm rejecting it again. I was a very prolific Pan-Africanist. But I'm not going to reject who I am for foreign concepts. Here's the thing about ideas that developed in the 1900s. Those people who were multi-generationally oppressed, descendants of oppressed people themselves. A lot of the ideas they came with were reactionary ideas meant to oppose white supremacy. So it's something that exists out of reaction. It's 2026. I'm able to think for myself. I don't need to follow ideas that came as a reaction to white supremacy. I reject white supremacy and all its byproducts, including Pan-Africanism. That's what I'm talking about. I reject all of them. Because honestly, they are just an extension of white supremacy. That's it. They are all extensions of white supremacy, including organized religion, which many Pan-Africanists perpetrated to this day. They worship religion. That's what I'm talking about. So my people, I want you to even the ones who are watching, trying to report the live, you must have peace in the fact that I fully and wholly reject Pan-Africanist nonsense. People must think differently. That's all. If an indigenous Ugandan can come here and think for himself, align with indigenous advancement. I don't have a problem with an indigenous Ugandan whatsoever if they can think for themselves. That I don't have a problem with that. If the product of Pan-Africanism can come and call people who are dressed in my indigenous attire half naked, then there's a bigger problem happening. If the products and the originators of Pan-Africanism can come here on this platform and say, I have a strange sounding language and mock the clicks in my tongue, there's a big problem here. And I will not stand for that garbage. Ndilicanzi mna, ndikucanzi. Isanza nzesanzonza kwathi gqi umntu. Ndingukrwala emgodleni, ndikugeqa amatye. Ndikuncola ngomhluzi amanzi ekhona, upheke iphimphim neqhakubha ngengxawana. First and foremost. Now, nothing wrong with engaging with, thinkers of the past. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. But more than engaging thinkers of the past, our problems are ours to solve now. Karl Marx is not going to solve your problems, unfortunately. Kwame Nkrumah will not solve your problem. You can maybe take some wisdom if it applies to you, but I'd rather listen to now. Okay? Tikap, Mufukeng, welcome my brother and welcome everyone. I was just sharing my thoughts here. on some things, But we are going to start now that you are here. How is it going, my good sir?
You know how it always goes, my brothers. We are always grinding. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
I hold the same sentiments actually with regards to Pan-Africanism. In Flonitra, there is this thing called thinking for yourself, like
Yes, sir.
being autonomous. Like
Yes.
I don't know, man. People like to fall into groups and whatnot. Like if you are able to do your own due diligence, which I always say, and just go and check what these guys were saying, man. Like the likes of Marcus Garvey. For me, the mere fact that in jail they were Christianized people, it's a problem. When if you were to even ask them their standpoints with regards to our indigenous knowledge system, they always saw our systems as inferior.
Yes, exactly.
To some level, they always saw our systems as inferior. Oh, we need to come and improve Africa. Like, really?
Exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying? And I'm talking about things that people can go and check and fact check. So if you can't read between the lines and be able to see, as you said, like a reactive state of mind, because the position we're trying to get to is a proactive state of mind where you are not influenced by extrinsic factors, influencing your intrinsic capabilities and thinking, ideologies, where you yourself can actually create your own, whether it's a system, your own ideology, your own governance. Most of these things that these people are coming up, it's a cut, it's a paste from this, a cut from there, a paste from this, and making it look authentic, like it's yours. Gantai, when you were listening to Karl Marx, and then you were a little bit of a lefty, a little bit of a conservative, but with Christendom. You understand? It's never purely who your people are.
Absolutely.
It's always a mixture.
Absolutely.
And they are trying to, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to present this as something new, like Lumumba, like the guy you were referring to. Prolific speaker. Ne? Here the foundational question. What has he done for his people?
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly my point. So how is he going to actually liberate the rest of Africa? Like I said, if he was thinking for himself, he was going to solve the intrinsic problems in his country. But he knows that he doesn't even address his country. he always speaks from a extrinsic ideology. He's always speaking to the people outside, not the people
Mm,
inside. You know, so it's misaligned. The objectives are misaligned. You
thank
know,
you.
he's reprimanding South Africa, but he's not reprimanding his governance that you've been in power, like Museveni, you've been in power for 40 years.
Exactly.
And he was talking about Pan-Africanism. Like, these people are a joke, I'm sorry. Uh, and yeah, for me, Sonisha, it's always about your portfolio. What have you done?
Mm,
You
mm,
can have a PhD, round of applause. What has it done? What has it changed in society? What you know what I'm saying? Other than like, there's a lot of people who are the PhD, man. Maraba, it's in next. They are
correct.
still serving, you know. And from where I am, from what I know, a person who holds a PhD is supposed to be changing society.
You must create
But anyway,
something.
those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Amagu, my brother. Thank you and welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, my brother.
Welcome, everyone. We're still talking about the question of the Bantu migration, but the different facets of the question. We're not just going to talk about migration. In the first session, we were on Brother Mufukeng's channel, Brother Kuche's channel account. I will post it on my YouTube, I think on Friday or Saturday. We spoke about the Bantu migration from the perspective of there were groups that came to the South in the past. Of course, that is not the question here. The question is whether those groups are the same people as are in South Africa today, which is not the case. It's impossible, right? Remember now, when people leave places, they carry themselves with. When the Dutch left the Netherlands about 500 years ago, and the Portuguese did the same thing, they carried their heritage with them. It doesn't just disappear. The Portuguese heritage, you can still find it in South Africa to this day. I mean, they even have descendants in Mozambique and Limpopo to this day, possibly in Eastern Cape and KZN as well, to this day. So that nonsense of Bantu migration already, when you cannot see West African belief systems in Southern Africa, how can you justify that West African people came here, but they didn't carry not even one mask? You know those West African masks? Not even one is found here. Where did they leave their belief system? They left everything. They left their language, they left their dance, they left their belief system. What happened? They telling us about E1B1A. E1B1A started in East Africa. Didn't start in West Africa. So they must stop with that nonsense of E1B1A. Oh no, we came to South Africa and we civilized the people there who were primitive. How did you civilize the people? By not speaking, by not teaching them your language? Because the people here don't speak West African languages whatsoever. The belief systems of the Tsonga peoples, the belief systems of the Venda people are the same, or at least a similar alternative version to the belief system of the Kaikwe and that of the Chwa and that of the Kham. Exactly, Wavy. It's clear that people moved from the south up, not from up down. It's very clear. So we're just deciphering that. So today we're continuing. Today I thought I should start with some work on the linguistic side, just to blow your minds a little bit. Just to blow your minds a little bit. Again, we're not accepting guests. Ne? We'll start accepting guests from tomorrow. Or people can come and ask questions. Firstly, guys, in Qora, this is called Qora Kobab. In Qora, to dance, you say Ay. Ay is to dance or to sing in Qora. When you are singing in Qora, you use the word Ay. Ay, you singing. Ay, you dance. Then, because now in Qora we have gendered nouns. You can have a masculine noun or a feminine noun. When it's masculine, it has a B at the end. When it's feminine, it has an S at the end. So now you have qeib and qais. At core, these words mean dance or sing. So qeib, qeib, qeib. You see the I is a long vowel. So it's qeib, qeib. It's a dance where people are singing, of course. Emqeibini kulapho zongithola khona. Emqeibini kulapho zongithola khona. Piano, piano, asisalali emakhaya. Qeib, a dance, a gathering where people sing and dance. That's the word umqimbi. That is the word umqimbi. It's qeib. And then you have qais again, same thing. It's just a feminine version. Now, here's another interesting one. Oh no, this one, sorry. As, qeib. As, qeib. As, qeib. This one is the reed dance, umhlanga. Umhlanga mcimbi. Because as can also be qab or aka. Aka, umhlanga. Litlaka or litlaka. Litlaka. Aka or qas. Qeib, umcimbi. Umcimbi umhlanga. The reed dance is a Kora tradition. Same one you find Eswatini. Same one you find KwaZulu. Do you see? Now let's go back to qeib for umcimbi and ukucula, ukuciba. It's qiba, qiba or qeib. Qiba. You know why it's qiba? We call it metathesis in linguistics, where consonants and vowels change places. So the A comes to the last part. Yeah, it's the same as mukiti or umgidi. So instead of having qeib, you have qiba, qiba. Ukuciba, what does it mean, ukuciba? It means to sing. I will show you now in isiZulu. Ukuciba. AmaZulu say, cibelela, cibelela. Cibelela from ukuthi cibi. Cibelela. It's a hlonipha term for hlabelela. Cib. Cibelela, cib. Belela, elela is what we call, this is what we call verbal extensions. Iziqando zezenzi. Verbal extensions is just you adding suffixes to just modify the meaning. But the meaning is in the root, cib. In the root form, it's ti. That's why AmaXhosa then modify it. That's why AmaXhosa. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you, but you are breaking sometimes. But you are, for the last 30 seconds, you were 100% audible.
All right. Thank you. So it's sometimes it's sad, because I need to explain these things in detail. I just want to say, I want to do this now. Words work with root and primary forms, especially verbs. So you could have a verb in a primary form, in which case it uses the root word only, or in a secondary form, in which case it modifies the root word. So in this case, gqibelela, meaning hlabelela in isiZulu, sing, is a modified form of qib. Qib meaning a dance from the word qi to sing. Now AmaXhosa, unlike isiZulu, which takes qib and makes qibelela, and qib and make it umcimbi, AmaXhosa take qi as it is and then take it and modify it into the secondary, which is qila, ukuqila. I always tell people, go to the way that the older generation speak. The older generation would rather use an auxiliary verb. The word we use, it is the word ukuti or huri or huri or kuri or kuti. You use that verb kuri or huri or kuti in front of the root word, meaning you don't have to modify the root word. So instead of saying ukucila or ukucwila to sing, you say ukuthi ci. Ukuthi ci. Ci is the root word. So you can clearly then see the relationship between the modern language and the old language. That is the same thing. The same one here, who can tell me this word, which means to take cover. To take cover. When you change it into the masculine and you change it into the feminine, what word would you get from to for taking cover, for sheltering yourself? What word would you get? Ukuqasha, absolutely. Ukuqasha. That is absolutely correct. Qasha kasisutu, uqacha. That's why you have qacha snake. Because Qacha was a guy called Ngasha. He was a guy, a prince of Maputi. Uqacha ngasisuthu ngunqasha ngesiphuti, nguqacha ngesizulu, unqacha ngesixhosa. It's from here, to take cover. Or qas or qasha. Again. So you need to be able to see these things. They're not that hard to see at all, actually. They're not that hard to see at all. Let me show you something else here. You see here, there's a word here. Qib. Qayeb, or qaib. It's a black-backed jackal. Its other name is qirib. Qirib. Or qiris. Or qiri. Iqili. A jackal or some kind of fox. Qiri or qili. That's why you call a smart person iqili, because this thing is full of tricks. It's full of tricks. In all the stories we were told as children, the jackal always outsmarts the hyena. Incuka. It always outsmarts the hyena. But even better, there's another form here. Qairab. In a feminine form, it's qairas or qiras. Uncilashe. Abantu basemavundleni, abantu bakwamvulane, abantu bakwabhayi khetshe, bathi ncilashe. They are calling out the name. What is ukucila again? What is ukucila is to sing. So this name cilashe and qili come from the word to sing. But in this case, because the jackal makes noise, when it sees a carcass, the elders called it Qirabe or Qirase or Qirib or Uqilibe, the one who makes noise, the one who sings aloud. Uqulayo, in other words. That is what the name of the jackal means. He who sings out noises. Uyaceya, ciya or ceya, ukucula. This is the Yeyeza version. Yes, in a non-click form, qili or qiri becomes piri. It's piri, absolutely. It's piri. All right? Yes, Uyeyizela also falls in this. Now, I want to show you something else here. Let's check something. Let's check something quickly. We are still in isiZulu, ne? I want to show you something. There's a word I'm trying to find. Just bear with me quickly. I want to show you something quickly. There's a word in isiZulu that is used for the breast, ne? And I will show you in isiXhosa another word for the breast. And then I will show you in Kwinkia. I'm not sure if I'm going to find it, though. It doesn't seem like it's here today, this word that I'm looking for. Either way, if you come here, and check, ne, this is Kwinkia. For breast, I'm going to play with your mind a little bit. We've got a word here, B. Now, this is the root word for breast. This is Kwinkia now. It's no longer Kora. This is the root word for breast, B. This is also where the milk comes from. That's why B is the breast and S is added for the feminine form, which gives us bis or libisi or ubisi, the word for nguni and the word in South African languages for breast, B. Ubisi or libisi. But if you come down here, you will see a word, into, or into. Into is another name for a breast, a place where the milk comes from. Into. You have B, which gives us BC, and you have into. Now, if you come to the Xhosa dictionary, ne? Let's just quickly look at izihlonipho. Let's just quickly check something. I'll show you something. You see, when we are milking a cow, ne? You know, boys, sometimes they will milk it into their mouths, directly into their mouths. We call that ukuncintela. Check this out. And I'm not rushing for a reason, because I don't want you to say, that guy is making stuff up. Why would I make stuff up? Why would I make stuff up, though? What will that benefit me? Because it's not like I'm getting paid to say these things. It's not like somebody is funding me. I'm not being funded by Israel or AfriForum to lie. If anything, I'm taking time I could be spending with family and doing this. Ukusenga is to milk. Ukusenga is to milk. Another way to say it is ukucikida. Another way is cinta or cintela. I told you, if you go to Kwinkia, look for the word for a breast. It's cintu. Icintu is what you squeeze, and then you're doing the process of ukucinta. That's why we say ukucinta. When you milk something, uyayicinta. Cinta or cintela, you are milking the breast. Ndabezitha is confirming that we say incintiso. Yes. There's other form, nceta, ncita, and ncinta as well. Ncinta as well. There's many other forms, okay? But my point is that word, ncenta, ncinta, ncinta, cinta, cintela, all these words, meaning to do what? To to milk the breast connect back to the Kwingea word for a breast itself. They connect back to a breast, just like the word for milk, ubisi, connects back to it. Now, tell me, how is it that if, say, a group of people came from outside South Africa, these groups were pastoralists who were superior in cow breeding, why would they use words from Kwingea? Oh, how do you know it's from Kwingea? Because in Kwingea, it's used in the root form. It's not modified. It's in the primary root form. There's no addition. They can add a feminine suffix. They can add a masculine suffix if they want. It's clear they have it in its original form, this word. So there's no way that they took this word from someone else. How come then people who are said to be primitive, who are said to know nothing about cows, why then would they give a culture that prioritizes cows? Why would that culture take words for milking and words for milk from a culture that doesn't have cows? How does that make sense? If there's a superior culture that came, that civilized everyone, why does the superior culture take the language, traditions, belief systems, and the phenotype of the primitive ones? Again, making no sense at all. No sense at all. No, don't worry about those things. Just look at E1B1A. You're done with your life. E1B1A solves all the problems. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Perhaps let's look at the word for bread. You see, in Kwingea, the word for bread is bere. Bere. Please tell me, what is bere in your language? It's not the breast. It's something that you can eat. Bere, bere, bere. No. That's English. Think about it again. Bere. It's something you can cook and eat. Amabele, correct. Bere, bere ya. It's amabele. Amabele, absolutely. Because that is the grain we used in the past. We used amabele. That's what we used to make bread. That's what we used to make pap or mpokok porridge. Yes, soft porridge, hard porridge, whatever you were eating, it was a form of sorghum. Even sugar was sorghum. The one we call imfe, we used sorghum. We used sorghum for a lot. It was the main thing, together with others like your millet, pearl millet, finger millet. But sorghum, many variations of sorghum were used for many different reasons. Bless you. But that is it. So again, this is Kwingea. You have bere for amabele. Let's go down in Kwingea again to break something in Kwingea. To break something in Kwingea, you have the word kwa. Kwa. Kwa gives you the word kwahla. Ukukwatlaza. For something to fall and break. But I want to focus on this one. Kura. Kura. Because kura is the word ukupula. You see, if you know Venda or Kilobedu or Kalanga, you would know that P becomes K sometimes in Venda or Kilobedu. The Nguni P or the Sutu P becomes a K there. For example, words like Pumula. Words like Pumula become Kumula, and they are related to breathe. Because when you're resting, you are breathing. So Kura is ukupula. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kwa. Ukuti kwa or ukuti kwata. Again, is to break. Siditina, dati kwata uswaz. I broke a bit of stick to hit. Kwata. Kwata. And there are many others that you can find in your language. It's fine. I wanted to focus on this K and P. K and P, ukupula and ukukura. It happens even in the languages that we speak. Nazog. And these guys are, these things are not planned, by the way. I didn't plan to look at these words. And that is how random the connection in these languages is. You don't have to plan. You just find random words. You see, this is the same thing, guys. Like here, for breath, they use tutu and they use tum and tum. Ne? For breath, they use tutu. They use tum and tum. Now, tum is breath, it's soul, but it's also spirit. All these things. Itongo. It's also itongo. Tula uti tu with your mouth. Because you breathe with it. But also when you speak. Absolutely, nazog. Ulele tum. Sleeping in silence. Only breathing. And also the chest area. Ingum or inguma. You know that area belongs to the king, eh? Because that's where the soul lives. The chest. That's where the soul lives, the indigenous beliefs. If you hunt and find an eland, and you don't take the chest to the king, you will leave everything. Uyo is uyo. So in this dictionary, because it's phonetic, J is pronounced as Y. It's uyo. Like food in the morning. To breathe is tu. To breed is qam. Amaxhosa athi qhama. Qhamani nande. To breed is to give birth, or to raise, or to increase the number of things. Let them increase each other. Qhama. Yeah, you can see this one is a borrowed word. Stina. Stina. So what you have then, is a situation where at any random point in Kwinkia, or at any random point in Kora Kobab, or at any random point in Jungwansi, you find isiZulu, you find Sesotho, you find Sepedi. I don't think this should be ignored. It cannot be ignored. In fact, let me continue here, since there's someone called Pumi here. I'm not sure, Pumi, what your name is in full. Can you write your name? I want to help you quickly show you something. Pumi, please write your name for us in full. Is it Pumelela? Pumzile. There's also a Pumzile here. So what do you want me to do now? When I'm funding, exactly, Momeles. These things are ignored on purpose. Because why should this be ignored? If a language in Cameroon that is the word abantu, and the language in South Africa that has the word abantu, are so important to these people that they should be related together, why a language in South Africa and another language in South Africa that have so much similarity are ignored? You see, this word tum is breath and to breathe, and it gives us tum ulele tum. But also it gives us the word to rest, ukupumla. Pumla in a secondary form. Tum, iti tum, or iti tum kahle, just rest nicely. Now, when you use in the secondary form, you remove the auxiliary prefix, uku, or ukuti tum. You then say tumla, or pumula, or pumla. In Chivenda or Sikhalak, They use the same word meaning to breathe. Kumura. Kumura. To breathe. But we can see it's Pumura. It's Pumula, sorry. Pumula in Southern Sutu. Yes. There it is, Tum. So if your name is Pumzile, Pumlani, it's Tum. Now we'll go to Pumelela, but Pumelela means to burst. To burst. It's a different one. To burst. All right? All right? And this is important to me because, hey man, you know, sometimes I look at my people and they will go to, let's say, a place like Angola and find a place called Masuku in Angola. They will find a place called Masuku in Angola. Pumelele, Pumi, all right. A place called Masuku in Gabon. I'll show you something. And then somebody's going to tell you that Masuku in Gabon means Masuku in South Africa when they have nothing to do with each other. You see, if you go to Gabon, there's a place called Franceville. But the original name is Masuku. All right? It's Masuku. It has nothing to do with our Masuku because our Masuku is for days. Their Masuku literally just means, let's check the Gabonites, what they say it means. Let's check what the Gabonites are telling us about their own language. Just give me a sec. There's a part where they explain that it really means what does it mean, Gonja? What is this? Loquat plum. Sugar plum. Yeah. You see? Known locally as Masuku and in English as sugar plum. It has nothing to do with Masuku of South Africa. Masuku of South Africa, nothing to do with Masuku of Gabon. We need to stop it, guys. We need to stop forcing things that have nothing to do with each other and make them seem like they do. I'm going to give my brother Limakara just to say a few words before I now get into it. Muren.
Branag, you are showcasing something important. Another layer is that, as you are saying that, if sounds are the same and they are in different regions, I think it's important for people to look for meaning. Besides just looking for similarity in sound, I think we must also look into meaning. I think that's the second layer, which is what a lot of people are not going into. I mean,
Yes.
brother, there's a lot of similar words and sounds that we can find, let's say, in East Asia or West Asia, that we can find here. Some of them, they don't mean the same thing.
Yes.
So we can't say that, oh, just because this sound is the same, it means these people are speaking the same language. You know what I'm saying? I think there's layers when you are studying language.
Yes.
You know, there are layers. There's a technique. There's ways that people follow in order to ascertain their points. You know what I'm saying? So if we are getting into a point where we want to study similar words, we also need to look into the meaning, and that will give clarity, as you just demonstrated right now. Do you understand? Because
Yeah.
amasuku, in our term, it doesn't mean sugar plum or sugar cane. You know, busiu, kapamasiu, we know them as night or nights or days. Wabon.
Mm.
So, like I'm saying, it's important for us to look into that layer. Now, like when we are looking into the etymology of words, when we are looking into the similarity in sounds, we should also now add the meaning of the word or the
Yes.
meaning of the sound, so that now we can build a strong case when you are going to present to people. Because that's also something that is missing with a lot of uh, these scholars that we are meeting, some of the people that we are talking about. You know, they just take similar sounds and they correlate them and say, in South Africa, they say this, in Nigeria, they say this. Okay, what
Mm.
does it mean? What does it mean from that Nigerian language? What does it mean from that, South African language? And
Yes.
if we find that there's similarity, we should go deeper now, because that's another layer. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm.
people are just taking this at the top, which is intellectually lazy. It means then we are not doing thorough research. You just, when you are meeting, when you are seeing one point, you will say some things are similar. No, you need to go deep into the study itself. That's my contribution for now, Mhlekazi.
Thank you, Muren. Thank you, Muren. You see on this picture, guys, I want to touch quickly on this picture. If you notice there's a place where two rivers meet, the Qoqob River and the Osob River. They meet at a place known as Hakangus or Hakangus. This is what Amaxhosa say Hakangu. Amaxhosa say Hakangu. What is Hakangu? Well, it's a place. We can see that. A place where groups of people live. And as you can see, those groups are who? Those groups are Ngeng. Ngeng means a house. Those groups are Tauni. Those groups are Ngamani. Those groups are sassy peoples. Or Tsatsi, the one we call Amatanzi, Omfen, or Tanzi. Or Matazi, or Tedza, Ematedza. We see these groups of people, they are living where? In Kakanus. You can see another group there called the Valpens. Valpens is Kakia people. Just below the Valpens, there's another group called the Eikusi, or the Naro people. Tell you what, top right you have the Kuken or the Nuken. Next to them you have the Kung. Next to them you have the Omani. Next to them on the right you have the Masarwa. Again, your core peoples. All these people are living there nicely. They are living there nicely. And they are called Kakakos, which is the place. You see, when people are digging for stones, they are digging for stones that they can use to make arrowheads. For example, the brother Amen Re, he mentioned in one of the lives that in the Ngwenya mine, long ago, our ancestors used to also dig for those stones known as the hematite. It's an iron-rich ore, basically, that can be used to extract iron, but also the iron can be used to make arrowheads, the head of an arrow, right? It's called hematite. But hematite has an indigenous name. Across different Kwinkia languages, it's called Tigen, it's called Koi, it's called Ka, or a way. That's a hematite. In fact, amaxhosa, when your arrowhead has a metal to it, they call that metal iqwilika, right? Iqwilika, which is based on this name for hematite. Rautoba tikai qab. Rautoba amtitsina. So when people dig for these things, they need to pound the stones. They need to beat the stones up. Now, the word for heating, I want you guys to listen. The word you use for heating is the word no. No is the word to heat. If you look at chakang or chakang, at the end there's a word no. It's to heat something. In fact, when growing up, we used to use this word a lot. When you hit someone a lot, you say, there we are mngucha. It's mngucha, which means too much heating. Yabo, we are mngucha. Or we are mngulela. Ngura is to hit consistently. This is mngulela sako is. We are mngucha lomtulo. Right? That is the word to hit something. Now, the first word, kaka, is to carry something that you can hit with. Sometimes it's katen or kaken. It means to carry something like a hammer of some sort or a stick. So kakan is those who hit with a stick, or the area where people hit with a stick, right? Yeah. Bayaqhoka. Baphetha amaqhoka, baqhoka ngcu. Kakan. What are these people hitting? Different things. Sometimes, as the brother said on one of the lives, that hematite stone, that ore of hematite, that goi, or that way. Let me show you what I'm talking about. That hematite is not something that the ancients did not know. They knew exactly what hematite is. It's or it's tsigen, or they call it goi, or or way. This is all different names for hematite, which would be then mined and then used for these different tools and arrowheads. You hit these tools, and that is the word you see on the background that I put there. Then now, people who dwell in this area, like your Namani, like your Kauni, like your Omani, like your Kung, your Nguken, your Ng, Ng, meaning people of the house, all these people going down would be called Amakhakangu. The Kakangu people. But the crazy thing is that in a place where the Abatembu live, in Eastern Cape, right now as I'm talking to you, there is a village called Kakangu. I repeat, in a place where you find Abatembu, right now in the Eastern Cape, there's a village not far from the Mtata River, a village called Kakangu. It's there. I didn't make it up. So the same place here in the border of Botswana and Namibia and South Africa called Kakangus. In Afrikaans, they call it Tuerefieren. It's also there in the Eastern Cape. I will show you in a minute. You will see it for yourselves. Let's go to the Mtata River quickly so that you can see that I'm not making it up. You see now, you are here. This is a place called Ngeleni, from the word Ngele. What is the word Ngele? This is the word Ngaremab. Ngele is Ngaremab. That's where Ngaremab comes from. In fact, if you come here and you look, hail is called many names. But one of the names for hail is a name, Ngare. Ngare. And the name of the country or the region of the country of South Africa is Ngaremab. Place with hail and snow. That is, in isiXhosa, it's Ngeleni or Ngele. In fact, if you go to former Sky, it's not even Ngeleni, it's Ngele, straight Ngele, which is Ngare. You can also see Gua, which means a fertile, full. You can see Amakwe, which means stone of the oryx. You can see Obo, you can see Kala. All these are Quinkia names. You can see Ngangaho, which means the river with stones. You can see Kumbu, which means swollen. Yeah? Kandu is another word meaning to hit. Remember, I said katun, or kaken, or kaka plus ngu is to hit something. So kandu again means to hit. Ukukandula is to hit and make a stone and to work as a mason. So umkandul is a person who hits stones. I'm boasting with indigenous history and knowledge because it's beautiful actually. Now we are in now Tembuland. You can see this place called Ngobo, Chefane, Ngembu. This is Mtata. Now in this vicinity, you see Kwekwe. Kwekwe is a Kunkia word meaning ridge or stone. Interesting thing is that just next to Kwekwe, you have ridge. Now, Zog, let's quickly zoom in and see. Let's zoom in and see. You have Mputi here. There's my name. Is your name in the calendar, guys? There's my name. There's another interesting name here. Ule. If you come here, there's a name Ule. This is the kind of stuff our people should be learning about, not some E1, B1A stuff. Now, I don't want to waste too much time. I want to get to this place called Kagang. There you go. Look at this. Look at this place. What is this name? Kagang. Now, maybe they should explain it's called Kagang Bon. What is Animotopia, whoever you are? I don't know what that name is. What's Animotopia? I've never heard of that. Topia of animals. Hey, wait. Singis. Yeah. So you see, there's a village called Kagang, and there's the other old Kagang now. The old Kagang. Kagangus. So again, no, just ignore it. It's fine, man. It's just words, you know. We don't care about those things. We care about E1, B1A. It's just words. But when these words are similar to a language in Angola, it's not just words now. We are Bantu. We don't say, no. We say, no, Baba, we don't say that nonsense. We don't say that nonsense. Okay. So now we're gonna go back and look at the year. Perhaps the stars first, because I think we haven't had enough time to go through the stars thoroughly. Yesterday we were doing the map, correct? But we did the map in a very rushed manner. So we're gonna look at Botswana first. What Botswana tell us about their knowledge of the stars. And we're gonna do it nicely without rushing. Because these things matter. These things are very important. They're very, very important. All right. So number one. I'm gonna share my screen now. Let's go to the Tutlwa. Tutlwa is the zebras. That's what it means. The 4 zebras, right? The zebras are the Southern Cross or the crooks. It's about 7 stars, but there's about 4 that are bright. 2 are the brightest and the other 2 are less bright. So you've got the 2 brightest ones, alpha and beta. Alpha and beta, and you've got the less bright 2. The ones that are brighter are known as Ditutla Tsabana, and the brighter ones. The ones that are less bright are known as Ditutla Tsabasad, which means the male zebras, the bulls, and the female zebras. Now, if you actually look here, crooks or the crews, if you actually look here, this is the, sorry guys, but we have to look at it so that we know what we're talking about. I don't like this picture. Yeah. So if you actually look here, yeah, you see these 4 stars here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 that are really bright. They are known as the male giraffes, and then you've got 2 that are less bright. They are known as the female giraffes. But if you look here, they are forming a cross. That's why they are called in Western cosmology, they are called the Southern Cross, or the Crooks constellation. This is the Southern Cross. Now, in Setswana, Kiritutwa, the zebras, you've got the male ones, you've got the female ones. The 2 bright ones are male zebras because they are bulls, correct? The 2 less bright ones, they are female zebras. It's not based on that males are better. It's based on the big size of male zebras, of male giraffes. Yeah. All right. So when our people talk about these ones, these are gonna help you, by the way. These are gonna help you when you know how to locate them in the sky. They're gonna help, but let's continue and see. After the Tutla, you have Mahlapolana. Now, some people argue that Mahlapolana is actually the same as Venus, but at a different time of the day. But let's see. Some say it's actually Mars, a red bright star visible in the southeast in the sky, few hours after dark. I really believe this is not true. I believe that this is actually Venus, not Mars. Then you have Sinakane or Snakanaken, Archana. Now, I think this is an important one because it's given the name the little Canopus. That's the name that is given to Archana. It's called the little Canopus because Canopus is the second brightest star in the sky, in the night sky. The second brightest star. This is Archana. There you have it there. These are really bad pictures. Let me see if I can. These are really ugly pictures. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what these people are doing. Let's see if we can find Archana today in the night sky. Looks like we're not finding Archana. It has to be somewhere. So you can search for it here. This is Venus, by the way. This is Venus. It's the brightest star right now. I'm actually looking at Venus from my window. I can literally see it from my window right now as we speak. I think this is what they are referring to when they say Mahlapolan. I think they're referring to Venus. Then Archana is Sinekan. I can see Venus right now. Right now as we speak. I'm looking at it. From my window, I'm literally looking at it in the western horizon. It's nice and beautiful. Because I'm in the west, so I can see it. It's just after sunset. Very nice. Then we have Snagane, which means little canopus, right? The word little canopus, actually Sinaga. Naga is a horn. It's a horn. It was used, the horn was used to call out the attention and announce the appearance of the canopus. So because now Archana is less bright than the canopus, Archana is named the little canopus. Let me check Spiker. I think I'll have to open the window to see Spiker. I think I would have to open the window. But I do normally see it every day. This whole past few weeks, I've been seeing Spiker as well. Every single day, I've been seeing Spiker. All right. After Sinagane, which is Archana, you have Naga, that is canopus. So again, you come and see. And I'm only going through this. Venus is going to be the brightest one in the west. That's the best way I can explain it. Look to the western hemisphere or the western horizon. Immediately after sunset, you should see Venus. Sometimes even before the sun sets, actually. Even before the sun sets, Venus is already there. It's the brightest star after, obviously, Sirius. It's the brightest star on the west. That's it. Then next to Venus, you normally see Spiker around this time. But in the south, but it's a bit hidden now, there's another important star called Canopus. But when I call this Naga, again, I did mention it in the past that it's called Naga because there's a horn that you blow when you see it. So it's called the horn star because it's symbolized by people blowing that horn. Archana, because it's less bright than Canopus, it's called the little horn, Sinagane. All right? Sinagane. All right, let's move. That is why Venus, by the way, has multiple names. Because in the evening, it's seen as an evening star. In the morning, it's seen as a morning star. So then it will have different names like Ustelankobe, Ukelizapolo, Ukwezilomso. Those are all the names of Venus, depending on the time that Venus appears. Unokwezi, absolutely. Then you have Dikulube, Orion's belt. Orion's belt. It's called Dikulube, which means the pigs. It's called the pigs. Why? Why Botswana called the Orion's belt the pigs? Let's see something. Let's check something. You see, the hunter in the sky has a sword. He carries a sword. But in indigenous Southern African cosmology, we don't see that as a sword. This is Orion's belt here. Hey, this thing, man. This is the belt, correct? The 3 stars. 1, 2, 3. This is Orion's belt. 1, 2, 3. Right? But if you actually look after Orion's belt, you have Orion's sword. You know Orion's belt because it's surrounded by four stars that form some kind of box. Then there's 3 stars here. This is the Orion's belt. Yeah, we do have wild pigs. Inqagu. We do have wild pigs. Inqagu and Inqakwe. But here's the most important thing, guys. This is the belt, ne? We call them Dikulube, the pigs. After the belt, there's the sword, which we call Dinsa, the dogs. Do you understand? This is the belt, we call them the pigs, and this is the sword. So because it's Orion's belt, he's standing up, this is his waist, and then the sword is here. And then this is obviously his upper body, this is his lower body. In our cosmology, that is not the case. In our cosmology, here we have the star, I think it's Aldebaran. Aldebaran is shooting towards these three zebras. He misses, and then his arrow goes this way. This is the arrow of the hunter. These are the three zebras. That is the Tram cosmology. The Tswana cosmology is that these are three pigs, Dikulube, and these are three dogs chasing the pigs, Dinsa. So Orion's belt and Orion's sword, we call them Dikulube li Dinsa, the dogs and the pigs and the dogs. That's what we call them. That's why Botswana then talk about this called Dikulube. It is obviously it's an instantly recognizable because you have the three stars, but importantly, the three stars are within. The three stars are within four other stars, almost like a box. That is what the three stars are within. They're within the four other stars. Then you have Makhala. This is Rigel and Betelgeuse with Sirius and Procyon. These stars are called Makhala and they tend to be visible in the evening. They indicate time to harvest the sorghum or maize. You guys know sorghum is our magic. It's our magic food here in the south. We love sorghum. That is the main thing. We eat sorghum and because it's got about 23 different species. There are 23 different species of sorghum. You can use sorghum as a natural indigenous sugar, imfe. You use sorghum, you make all sorts of different things. Soft porridge, hard porridge. You can make bread with it, cake, whatever you want to make with sorghum, you make. So the time to harvest sorghum, we look at those stars. Sirius, Rigel, and the two other stars. Then after that, you've got the star Sirius, Khugamashigo, which will be visible near Orion. This one, it absolutely dominates the morning sky around July, in late winter. It rises early. The rise is early. It dominates the morning sky. That's why other cultures would refer to Sirius as the sky of the porcupine. The porcupine is called Qo. Therefore, Sirius is also called Qo. If you look at Gwinka names for Sirius, it's called Qo, the star of the porcupine. Because the porcupine is a shy, nocturnal animal. It knows when it goes out hunting, its alarm clock to say time to go home is the appearance of the Sirius B. Sorry, the Sirius A. This is a porcupine. You're not going to see it during the day. You're not going to see this during the day. The last time I saw this was, I think, 2 months back, actually. It was around 8 at night. 8 came. I think it was afraid, Shame. It came running past me. I was shooting a video, so I think I was taking up its space. It came running. It was big, eh? But it was not angry. It was just running. Probably a bit scared. So we call then the Sirius star, Oken. Mr. Linko says they call it Noko. It's Koko. It's Koko or Oken. That is the name for Sirius in Kham. Why? Because we know it is the natural alarm clock. Sirius is the alarm clock for the nocturnal porcupine. It goes back to its hole whenever the star Sirius rises in the early hours of the morning. So, to the name of Sirius, there's an indigenous explanation. I'll give you Murena Makara once I'm done with reading Sichuan for you to just, maybe add on the names and whatever, like the meanings, and just explain whatever you understand. After Sirius, you have the Pleiades, Silimela. Now, the name for the Pleiades is this word, Limela, which comes from Lima. Lima. Lima means to plow, to prepare for planting. Ukutyala. So Lima is to plow. The Pleiades are plowing stars. Now, I can talk a lot about the Pleiades, but this is what I'm going to say, that the Pleiades, Asha, are the harbingers. They are the harbingers of a period of transition from deep winter to summer. So that period of transition from deep winter to summer is brought about by the appearance of the Pleiades. You see, there's Orion's belt, there's Orion's sword. Then you have Taurus here, then you have the Pleiades. Now, these are the most important stars, at least in Xhosa cosmology, because these are the stars that mark the beginning of the agricultural cycle. These are the stars that mark the beginning of the agricultural cycle. This is Pleiades. It's Limela. In Tram, we call it Ngonde stars. This is Ngonde. Now, when these stars appear down on earth in our indigenous communities, the plows will appear as well. Our people will begin plowing because they know the year is dying now. The year is dying. This is why around this time, the Venda people will not celebrate anything. They are in mourning. They will not celebrate anything. They will not celebrate anything. They will not marry around this time because the year is dying and the Pleiades is coming up. Once it appears on the northeastern horizon in the early hours of the morning, the Xhosas, the Sutus, the Zulus, the Vendas know that it's time to really begin plowing. When it sets in the southeast, they know it's time to harvest certain plants. So its appearance is a harbinger for the death of winter and the birth of spring. So right now we are going through the death of winter, the death of the old year. So a lot of cultures are in mourning in a way. Back in the day, trading would be very low. Marriages will not take place for a whole month because we are mourning the death of the year. If you still have anything in the fields, people will go and cut off the stuff. They'll go and cut off the stuff. We call that ubusika. So the next new moon that we will have, we will be absolutely having a new year. In most cultures, the next new moon will be a new year in most cultures for the next 2 to 3 months, actually, across the different cultures. These are the months in which we count our time. This is the month in which we count age as well. We use the appearance of the Pleiades at a certain point that izilimela zakho zingaphi udilimoti kai. That is Silimela, the Pleiades. Yes, remember guys, we've got 20, 30, 40 different cultures in South Africa. So we can't have the same exact time for each culture. It depends on the culture you are in. AmaXhosa, already celebrate their new year in June. AmaZulu around July, August. But most cultures, after July, that's where it starts. Remember, I said the appearance of the Pleiades is a harbinger of a new transitional period, which means it's a 3-month period where people are celebrating new agricultural years. So it's not going to be August for everyone. You must know your own specific culture, where you are, because we're not going to see the same thing at the same time. So AmaXhosa are already in a new year. Then you have another star here. This is Venus, Khupetsane, or Khupedi. It's Venus. This one, it's Venus in the evening. It's time for food. That's why we call it Istelankobe, the one who asks for corn. Because it's eating time. It's time to eat. So the appearance of Venus is our time for supper. It's supper time. This is the supper star, Venus. Huh? Then you have another name, Mpatlalatsane, Venus. It's visible in the morning. In the morning, right? But there's another, like Mahlapolane, Sikhopetsane, and Mpatlalatsane seem to all be the names of Venus at different times. So that is not exhaustive, but it's a good idea of the Tswana view of the sky. It's a good idea of the Tswana view of the sky, that to say, but Tswana did not just look at the sky and not wonder. They looked at the sky, they observed, they calculated, they tracked, they traced. They were not just looking, without any thoughts in their minds. They recorded what they saw. And that matters. That matters because it kills the narrative that people were just watching stuff without knowing anything. AmaZulu are no different because we understand the universe was called Umkhathilibe from the word Umkhathi, which means in between, Khathi, in between the great space, the universe, and Umkhathinga, so-called space. And then a galaxy is called Umthala or Umthalakazi. The great. Now, Umthala, remember now, it's a place where things are stored or where things are organized. Then you have the Milky Way, Umzila Fasimbe, and stars, obviously known as Izinkanyezi. A constellation is called Isishomo in isiZulu. A meteor is Iqhumanyezi. Asteroid, comets, and supernovas also have their own individual names. Imihlabana, Ubhaqanyezi, and Isidangazelakazi from the fire. Then you've got all these different planets. Now, the names may differ depending on the region. Umhlaba is planet Earth. We all know that. Lifatshe, Umhlaba, Iphasi. That is the name of planet Earth. Umhlaba or Ihlabathi. That is planet Earth. Mercury unomjubane. Venus unokhwezi. Even AmaNdebele agreed that it's nokhwezi. AmaXhosa call it ikhwezi. Earth, they also call it Nomkhubulwane. That's also fine. Because Nomkhubulwane is the time where the earth is being prepared for planting. This time is the time of Nomkhubulwane, when the Pleiades arrived. The Pleiades, now remember, it's seen as females. That's why even in Western cosmology, they call the Pleiades the Seven Sisters. It's seen as a female constellation. Hence, it is also linked to the fertility of the land. Unomkhubulwane, the fertile land. The word Nomkhubulwane means the mother of all plants. plowing fields, because siyakhumbula when the Pleiades show up. Sikhumbula umhlaba. We plow over and over the earth. Mars unotshezi because it's red. It's red. Mars is red. Is red. So it's called Chezi. Chezi means red, right? It's a red planet. Then you get Jupiter, wrong spelling. Umkhulukhulwana, the great father, little great father. Saturn unomakama, Uranus unomakekeba, Neptune unolundo, and Pluto unochoko. Now, most of these are named in a feminine manner, the planets. But you also get a plethora of stars, you know? A plethora of stars. And this is Zulu. From the protostar, blue star, yellow dwarf star, orange dwarf star, red dwarf stars, the different colors of stars. But for me, the black hole is the most interesting one. Isigwinqa. That's an interesting name to me. Then you get now the bright stars, which now are absolutely important. You see, the sun is known as Ilanga, one of the many names. There are other names of the sun. Then you get Sirius, which Amazulu call Indonsa or Indonsa Masuku. Indonsa Masuku. Remember, we had also looked at Chochamashiach. And then we have Canopus, Inkwenkwezi, and then Alpha Centauri, Inkonjane. These are all bright stars, by the way. I'm not going to go into each and every one of them. You guys should already be familiar with this. Beautiful names. Beautiful, beautiful names. There you go. Again, this should tell you people observed, people knew what they were doing. You mean to tell me our ancestors were living here thousands of years, interacting with the sky daily, even talking to these celestial bodies on a daily, talking to them. Talking to these celestial bodies, you know, communicating like the elders would do. Like the elders would do when they communicate with Sirius in the hours of the morning when the elder is trying to catch this zebra. The elder hunter is trying to catch this springbok, and the springbok is running. And the elder goes and talks to Sirius, because Sirius is the most powerful star and the most brightest in those hours of the morning. The elders talk to Sirius. They say, give us your arm so that we may hit the zebra. Give us your strength so that we may catch the zebra. And they call Sirius Oitetsachau. Oitetsachau, grandmother's eyes, in the hopes that Sirius will render the springbok blind and the hunter will catch and feed his family. I didn't change my teaching style. This is how I teach people who are in my program. People who are in my program learn like this. Actually, they're paying us. So then I take time to teach them. I show them what I'm talking about. Now on TikTok, I can't spend 4 hours of my life for nothing and just, you understand, it's a short form content platform. So I just share a few bits to get people interested. But I can't do this all the time. Even now, I'm doing this just for this week for a reason. But I can't be doing this every single time I come to TikTok. To join the program, you just have to inbox me that you're interested. Then I'll give you the step-by-step guide. It's very easy though. It's a very easy program. Once you join, then you get access to so much. We've got more than 112 to 120 hours of me speaking on various subjects: language, cosmology, spirituality, in depth though. The kind of stuff you're not going to find at any university whatsoever. I pride myself in that for the past 15 years, I've done some really good work in finding these secrets. And the beauty is that these secrets are so beautiful to share because nobody knows them, because nobody cares to learn indigenous wisdom. Let's go to Izik, this Pagapak, Xhosa name for celestial bodies. The earth is Umhlaba and isiXhosa. The sun and the moon. Again, you see, I don't like this because the sun is not just Ilanga, it's also Ikami. Ikami. The moon is not just Inyanga, it's also Unyezi. It's also Inkwezi. You get it? So again, even the information that is there needs to be modified to reflect the fullness of our literature and our intellectual heritage. We are not just black and white people. We have so much more nuance and diverse knowledge. A star is called Inkwenkwezi. Planet unozungezana because it keeps on following the sun, around the sun. A comet is called Intshotsholozi, from the word Tshotsholoza. You know, there's a famous song, Tshotsholoza, Tshotsholoza, kulezo ndaba sitimela siphuma. Ukutshotsholoza is to shoot, to burst forward. We are Tshotsholoza. Burst forward, like a bullet train or a star, a comet. So that's why it's called Intshotsholozi. Some of our kings, we used to call them that. When the praise singer is praising the king, they will call them, you comet star. Kwenkwezi entshotsholozi yakwagcaleka. Kwenkwezi entshotsholozi yakwagcaleka. The word Inkwenkwezi, let's go to Gwinkia and see how we can understand it better. Because again, Gwinkia will not fail. Gwinkia will not fail. Please attend my live for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to go the deepest I've ever gone when it comes to stars. But tomorrow I'm going to focus on Gwinkia only, Kui stars. I'm going to go as deep as it gets when it comes to stars. Today I'm just going through the naming. But tomorrow I want to close this topic of stars so that you understand around 6, 7, like yesterday, like today. Because tomorrow I want to teach you the personification of stars, that we did not only know the names, we understood the relations between the stars themselves. That Jupiter was a father. Jupiter had a wife, a son, and a daughter. We call Jupiter Gawe. We call Jupiter Gawe. I cover, Space Boy, I do cover. Not only astrology, but generally star law, the naming, the mythology behind the stars, the beliefs behind the stars. What is the best time to align with your stars? What is the best time to fast in reference to star and moon positions and moon phases? What is the best time to start a new project? The best time to get married. Why are you getting married now when the year is dying and we are mourning and we are waiting for the fertility period to start? We're looking at the positioning of the Pleiades in respect to the land. Then you get married when the Pleiades is in the right position so that you have fertility in your ways. No, we don't care about those things, Dina. We don't care. We have faith. Well, go and have faith then. It's fine. See you at Home Affairs when you get divorced. Star. Guang Guang. You take a diminutive, you add it. It's called Tsi, the Gwinkia diminutive, Tsi. You have Guang Guang Tsi, Inkwenkwezi. Inkwenkwezi. Planet Mars, Gebuken, Orakoba, Quinkias. Sorry. Planet Venus, Gabuken. Gabuken means to burst, like a fertile thing that rises, or the sun that comes out in the morning. Gabuken. Ukudabuka. Ukugabuka. This is the star of the morning. That's why it's called Gabuken. Jupiter. Gorot. Oh. Gorot. Oh. You will learn. You will learn about the family of Jupiter. Today you are watching the Marvel Universe. You enjoy watching Thor and Loki and Odin, the great All-Father. What you don't understand is that these are personified seasons of the year and stars of the sky. Do you not know that Odin is Jupiter? Gaweki or Goroto? Do you not know that Jupiter has sons and daughters? These sons and daughters have been personified. Today you're watching Superman and Spider-Man and Supergirl, and it's just taking stuff that are already there and making money from them. That's correct, Lingo. Agree, we did Setswana for about 30 minutes already. We did Mpatlatsane, we did Khugamasigo, we did Silimela, we did all the Tswana stars in depth. Then after the comet, Uzachoba, you have an asteroid, which is called Uzachek, or Inchek, from the word Ugucheka, as asteroids move in the sky. A galaxy, especially the Milky Way, is known as Umnyele. The Milky Way is called Umnyele, which is the back part of the Earth. Like the ancient Kemet people would refer to the Milky Way as the back part of Nut. What is Nut? Nut is the night sky. Because of the shiny elements that are in the night sky. It's called Nut, which we say it in Nyeti, 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 Unyezi. Because it's got stars that are shining in the sky. Nkanyezimu, those that shine in the sky. You know the word kanya is kunkya, means to be bright. So Amaxhosa would call the Milky Way umnyele or umthala. And they call gravity ubizelo and unomji because it attracts, it pulls. Hence ubizelo, meaning the pulling one. Now, this is for me even more interesting. Equator, meridian, orbit, and equinox. An equator is called Injiko. Injiko comes from the word the turning, because the sun traverses the two tropics, Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degrees north, 23.5 degrees south of the equator. Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer. That is why at the peak of summer, the sun in the southern hemisphere directs its sun rays at 23.5 degrees about the earth. It has reached its furthest point from the equator. I learned these things. I was still a 17-year-old or 16-year-old. I've never forgotten them. I was 16 when I learned these things. I didn't learn them again in my whole life, but I still remember because they made sense. These are the solstices that we're talking about. Injikalanga. These are the solstices because the sun is making its journey back into the equator and up and then back into the equator and down and back into the equator and up and back into the equator and down. It's not on a specific day, Lingo. It's about 21 December to 24 December. It depends on the revolution around of the sun. So some years it's going to be 21, 22. Some years it's going to be 23, 24. This is what people celebrate as Christmas, as the birth of Christ, There's no birth of Christ here. It's a summer equinox in the south, but it's really the winter equinox in the north. Look at what Father Christmas is wearing. He's wearing winter clothes. Today, you have people in South Africa wearing those gowns and gumboots in the hot summer sun, 35 degrees and a half in Limpopo. You are wearing Father Christmas stuff. Well, what kind of ridiculous nonsense is that? You are wearing Father Christmas, and not to even mention the history of Father Christmas as a slave-owning, white supremacist Christian bishop, Sinterklaas, Saint Niklaus. They call him Santa Claus. Santa means holy, the saint. Claus, it's Klaus, Nicholas, Niklaus. They're not teaching you about that. You're busy following. You're following Saint Niklaus. He had black slaves. You go to the Netherlands. Look at when they celebrate Saint Nicholas or Sinterklaas and Zwarte Piet, the Black Piet, who's there as a slave. They put blackface on. You are busy being Father Christmas on the 25th of December in South Africa. So the solstice is not a specific day, but it's within that period of time, 21 to 24 December. So it's going to depend now. Remember, the Earth, it revolves around its own orbit every 24 hours and around the sun about 365 and a half days. All of those revolutions influence the movement of the sun. So you cannot be fully sure. The Earth not only revolves or orbits its own orbit, it also bobbles, you know. So it's turning, but it's also bobbling. But okay, you know, people have different opinions on the Earth. Some people think it's flat, others think it's round, others think it's bigger than it seems. I know it's bigger than what we see. I know that for a fact. But that's for another day. So then you have the equator in Jiko, because the sun turns there. It turns north-south, but the equator is the central point. That's why then for the equinoxes in September and March, for the equinoxes, the sun is there on top of the equator. Then you have the meridian in Nkanda, from the word to cut through. From the word to cut through. Is it flat or round? Science says it's round. Mainstream science says it's round. Or not round, spherical. Spherical. I once watched a 5-hour documentary arguing that it's flat. It's definitely not plain though. Absolutely not plain. The topography doesn't allow for a plain surface. It's not a plain surface, most definitely. But I think there's more to it than just saying it's round. It's not round. But maybe for another day, I need to prepare. I need to do a presentation. It has to be 5 hours if you're going to talk about the Earth, because you see, there's something, man, about the moon. You need to understand the moon first. You see? But look at what is this thing? The eclipse, look at the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse. Those events should tell you something. Then you have the obvious orbit and equinox. It's known as Indimanyele, the equinox. We know the zenith as Isazulu in isiXhosa. Let's see now if there's anything that's missing. I'm closing on the topic of stars. Before I close, tomorrow I will be going in detail, but only in Kwinkia. I want to introduce to you, in Kwinkia, They call the Pleiades Onde, but also Cetus is also called Onde, and Takwe, also called Ute Takwetel. I will explain these things tomorrow when we talk about Quinkia. The constellation of Corona Australis is called Ngabet Angu. The Southern Cross is called Dasing Ara, the shoe of fire. But we'll do this one tomorrow. I don't want to mix up too many things today. Let me see if I missed anything here. Again, just to revise, we have Moriana in Sisutu, Imbali, Busuku, Ikanda Busuku, Jupiter. We have Sirius, Ikawe, Ingakauli. I will touch on this tomorrow because Kawe and Kawe in Kunkia are the same thing. Hukamashiru in Donza Busuku or Kwamucho in Chivenda. You have this in this document. It's all documented nicely. These ones are all documented nice. So you have all the names. I've touched on this already. So I'm gonna give my brother now, Kukuche, just to say a few words, and then we'll move to the next chapter, the connection with all the recorded languages.
My brother, you know, when we can define anything in our terms, it means we understand it. Because if you were to study like our language, and we always say this, oh, our language is descriptive. You don't describe something that you don't understand and you haven't studied thoroughly enough. So like this just showcases that our ancestors had time, most importantly, to actually study these bodies. Like if we are being practical, it really takes some time for one to actually study the pathway of these stars you are talking about. Like just generally, even the sun itself, like observing that in certain times, or what you guys call equinoxes, the sun, according to religion, they will say it dies and then it rises after 3 days. But in astrological terms, we know that it actually changes degrees, or it goes up 3 degrees, which is the 3 days that they are talking about. You understand? I can say that again. When in religious terms they say that the sun has died and rises after 3 days, we know that there is a period in an equinox where the sun changes degrees 3 degrees up, meaning it goes down 3 degrees if you had to study it. And then after 3 days, it goes up. That is the metaphor they are using. So when we are being literal and we are using our indigenous knowledge, we are not lost in phonics, or we are not hooked on phonics. You understand? Where people use these hidden terms, or what they call esoteric knowledge, to hide a plain fact that this is just, astrological knowledge. It's got nothing to do with religion. I'm sorry if people feel touched, but that's what it is. So as you are explaining these things and you are talking about the 3 pigs and the hunter, I hope they understand that cartoon about the 3 pigs and the wolf is actually about those 3 pigs and the hunter that you were talking about. Again, metaphor. So people get hooked on phonics, thinks this is about a cartoon. No, this is just showcasing the pathways of these celestial bodies, and they're teaching it to our kids, right? As you were calling it pigs, because even our people, they call it dikulube. Lidincha. So it's this knowledge that is embedded in our language that has been hidden esoterically or religiously, you know, as you were talking about the sun in
Yes,
metaphors.
yeah.
But when we get into the actual names of these celestial bodies, we get to understand what they are and the story behind them. Why did our ancestors call it the three pigs? Why did they call them the giraffes? Why do they call Pleiades Silimela? What does Silimela mean in your language? You know, why is it called Inkwenkwezi? Why is it called the morning star, even in our language? Well, I understand. So it's the knowledge system is embedded in our language, and I think obviously from our stories, and looking at where we are politically, we know that we are losing the essence of our language because whatever we're being taught now is very weak compared to what we know. So you can imagine the amount of indigenous knowledge we are losing through this, erasure of the indigenous language. And I'm talking about these click languages that people mock, by the way, not these transitional languages we are talking right now, like what you are showcasing, taking it from the transitional language to the actual source, as you say, so you can't downplay this knowledge we are talking about. Yes, we are speaking about language, but we are showing you how language actually also connects to everyday life. Because these things we are talking about are everyday life. As you were talking about EBC, showing them this, showing them bere, which is mabele. You
That's right.
understand? We use these words.
Correct.
You see my brother. So the information is embedded in our language, and I trust that people are seeing this demonstration so that they can understand that if they had to enroll for the class, they would actually get more understanding. Because as I am also one of the people that are in Sandile's class, and I get to understand this knowledge far much more deeper than what is currently being presented, because this is just 5 hours. We have lots of hours, as he did say, more than 120 hours. You can divide that by 8 hours and see how many days is that, right? So I trust that people can actually see this is just one subject embedded in language. We will get into others where we're talking about commerce, for instance, because people think that we never had any form of trade, there wasn't any form of industry. We are going to use our language to showcase people that we had industry, and we still do. And some of the industries are even showcased by our clan praises, the ones that people don't want to know, or the ones that people mock. You understand? When the Barulung say Babina Tipi, and they are saying they're ironsmith, that's an industry. For someone to be an ironsmith, there is a plethora of knowledge you need to know. You need to know about the soil, you need to know about the rock, you need to know about creating islangalala, as you say, creating the furnace. That's a science of its own, because if you don't create a proper furnace, the ore is not going to melt. So yeah, I can go on and on, but I appreciate it, my brother. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. You touched something important about industry and how we've always had industry. I thought I should show something about fire. A lot of people would be familiar with the story of Prometheus. Prometheus is the guy who stole fire from the gods in Greek mythology. He stole fire from the gods and then gave this fire to humans. And then he was punished for doing that, okay? But what if I told you that the story of Prometheus already exists in our indigenous languages? I repeat, the story of Prometheus already exists in our indigenous languages. Now, Wame like, man, you guys want to claim everything. But it's true. We already have the story of Prometheus in our languages. A lot of people know about something called Impundulu. They know about something called Impundulu, but what they do not know is that the story of Impundulu is much bigger than just a bird that scares people. It's much bigger, it's much more ancient than that. The story of Impundulu connects to the very invention of fire in and of itself. And fire is, yes, Inyoni Zulu, the bird of the skies, or the bird of thunder, or the bird of electricity and fire, because thunder gives us electricity. You see, there's a cave here in South Africa known as Wonderwerk Cave. There's a cave here known as the Wonderwerk Cave. It's a vast natural cave in South Africa's Northern Cape, famous for preserving nearly 2 million years of human history from the world's earliest cave fire. 2 million years from the world's earliest cave fire to ancient sun rock art. I told you we have the most elaborate cave system in the world. When our ancestors were talking about underground cities, they were not playing. When they were saying they used to live underground, they were not playing. The Xhosa people say the cows originated from underground in a place in the vicinity of Northern Cape or Northwest. They say cows originated underground. They found cows underground. That's the oral version of our history. No, online you'll find self-proclaimed professors who will tell you, no, you guys got the cows from the East Africans. That's not our ancestors say, though. That's not what they say. They say the cows came from a hole. The same hole where we found iron. The same hole where we found hematite. The same hole where we found ochre. The same hole where we found copper. The same holes where we found gold, silver, brass through indigenous mining. You see, this is an arrowhead. It's a tool that we used for various reasons to shoot when hunting, and it needed either stone or metal. In fact, the earliest tools we used were stone. We know that. We come from a stone culture. Even to perform indigenous surgery. For those who have been to initiation, depending on your culture or on the version that you guys follow, sometimes there are songs that are sang, sometimes there are messages that are recited that you say with your mouth. There's one message I remember talking about a tool that is rough on the sides, but it has two sides. Rough on the sides and there's two sides. And it's clearly an original tool that was used to perform an indigenous surgery. It was a stone tool. In the ancient times, before we used metal, circumcision was a practice that was conducted by stone, flint stones. Even in the so-called Bible that people follow, when they actually read there, when the Israelites were coming out of Egypt, with Joshua now, because Moses was dead, he had to circumcise everyone with a flint stone. So stones were the first, but stones, it's where the metal comes from. We take it from stone. That's why we say some of our clans will claim to be those who were cooked with stones. They were cooked with stones, but the stones melted first and they still remained. But what does it mean to cook a stone? It means to melt it in the furnace. You cook a stone by melting it in the furnace. It talks about indigenous industry. 2 million years ago, humans first lived in the cave, leaving behind some of the earliest stone tools. Inyembe, we call this inyembe. If it's a head of an arrow, it's called usabe. Amabele say that they are cooked with the stone, and the stone got cooked first. But also Bavenda, amongst the Bavenda, you get the same story. 1 million years ago, the cave holds the world's earliest evidence of fire used inside a home. Ash and burnt bones. It's here in South Africa. It's not anywhere else. I could go and show the earliest evidence of what? Of art here in South Africa. I could go and show the earliest evidence of what? Of language. It's here in South Africa. I could go and show all these human advancements, the earliest evidence of these here in South Africa. But fire, for me, is what sets everything off, because industry is accelerated, development is accelerated with fire. You know, the engines, the OG engines depended on combustion, the release of energy in the form of heat. Fire. That's why we have a lot of clan names that are fire people. You've got Akwe, you've got Qhekwi, you've got Khoza, you've got Abantu Bakwamlilo, you've got Chauke. These are all fire clans. These are all fire people. Thank you for the gift, brother. Thank you for the gifts, brother. Guys, please gift. All right. So you've got clans like Mabasa. Absolutely. Mabasa. And by the way, Mabaso, it's all Bomoi, it's all connected to the art of making fire and collecting firewood. So I'm showing this to say 1 million years ago, we have evidence that the earliest forms of fire inside a house context or setting, 10,000 years ago, we can see people engraving stones and made ostrich eggshell necklaces or beads for decoration 10,000 years ago. Here's a stone being used. You know, 10,000 years ago was not too long ago, eh? We have evidence of that. Again, here. And there you go with the rock art. With the rock art, it's been happening for the last, I don't know, 4,000 years, 5,000 years. It's been happening. So once again, these are not things we can just ignore. Or we call this Izazobe, by the way. Izazobe. So these are the places you can visit and see, you know. In fact, let me show you one of my ancestors, where my ancestors lived. Let me not talk about maybe other people's stuff. Let me talk about my own ancestors. So that you can see. There you have it. My ancestors lived here. I see now people have started also building other things here. But my ancestors lived here. That's why we stay, to this day, we say we descend with our back down the cave. Sitheuka ngemuva ethabeni. Sikhamba ngemuva etasi sehla ngomvelweni. Ah, my people. We cannot just ignore all of this. It connects with language, it connects with clan names, it connects all our culture, connects us to exactly where we are. Exactly where we are. And I think this is a very important thing to highlight. All right. Now let's look at further. Okay, so this is evidence. It says new evidence for early Pleistocene use of fire at Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, in Northern Cape. So it's a kind of journal. It's a journal talking about this. So swat is put. So swat is put. Now, here's something interesting. Prometheus is a titan. This titan, let's quickly read here, is responsible for creating or aiding humanity in its earliest days. They say he defied the Olympian gods by taking fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and more generally civilization. If that's the case, then Prometheus must have been in South Africa then, because we know this happened in South Africa. Science agrees that the earliest usage of fire is in South Africa. There's Prometheus being tortured by an eagle. They hanged him, they tied him, and the eagle is torturing him. But before Prometheus, we had Kraken, the shape-shifting praying mantis, who stole fire from under the wings of Toi. Kraken stole fire from under the wings of Toi. Toi could fly in the early days, but Toi was tricked by the trickster entity called Kraken, the praying mantis, who could shapeshift, who could trick people into doing his bidding. He stole the fire. He gave it to humans. So who comes first? Who deserves more attention? Prometheus or Kraken? Kraken is the one we call Ucikwane. Kraken is the one we call Ugcagcana, or Uncanca wezulu, or Ucananap. That's Kraken. The one, when we were children, we were told not to harm. Do not harm the praying mantis. Because praying mantis is the key to the heavens. Isitixo sezulu. That's what we were told. That's how we were taught. That the praying mantis is the key to the heavens. You can't harm the praying mantis. Angeze mntana ezulu. Cela kuyihlwasiphe ingubo. Ask your father to grant us some skin, some cow skin to dress at night to cover ourselves. To cover ourselves. The story goes, the praying mantis realized that there's a bird, a flightless bird, which had fire under its wings. Elders tell us that the name of this bird is Toi. This bird is given fire under its wings. When it flaps its wings, the fire comes out. Toi, the name means ostrich. In those days, the bird could fly. That's how the story goes. But the bird was not very smart, and Kraken had a plan to steal the fire. So Kraken kept on messing around this bird, messing with the eggs, messing around. The bird lost focus, opened up its wings near Kraken. Kraken stole the fire. I'm not going to get into the details, of course, but that is the gist of what happened. Kraken stole the fire. And therefore, Kraken caught this bird, Toi, to be punished. Toi then was told, you shall not fly again, and the bird becomes flightless. You end up with a flightless bird called the ostrich, toi, or enib, ininiba, as we call it. You talk about the bird of the sky, or the bird of fire, or the bird of electricity. Intagezulu, inyoni yezulu, impundulu. That this bird flies high. When this bird flies high, this bird is able to influence fire. This bird is able to cause thunder and lightning. That's why it's called the bird of lightning, impundulu. And that it flaps its wings. Some elders even say it burns its own fat and produces fire. Isn't this the same story of Toi, who had fire under her wings and it got stolen? This is the same story of Impundulu, which flaps its wings and fire comes down in the form of lightning. And when the lightning hits the organic earth, we can use the charred organic materials for other purposes. That's why our elders spoke about umgubo phezulu, the powder from the sky one. Absolutely, fire is a symbol of intelligence. Fire is a symbol of intelligence. It is a symbol of intelligence, a symbol of thought. That is because fire is what comes before civilization. It also preserves life in the most literal sense. It's what preserves life. So the Toi, the Mpundulu, these are the birds that have fire, and the fire has been stolen. Has been stolen from them by the tricking entity, the Kagan. So the story of Prometheus was never new. It was not new at all. When they were telling the story, we had our own, but we're like, oh, damn, since we don't love ourselves, since we prefer to take Western ideas above ours, let's just follow the Greek one, okay? It's just nicer. Sounds nicer. Prometheus. What the hell is Kagan? What the hell is Impundulo, Tekwane? What the hell is Kumkosh? We don't want those things. We want Prometheus. And these are the effects now of low indigenous self-esteem. That's what happens when you don't trust your own way, your own system, your own knowledge systems. That is exactly what happens. You end up looking for yourself outside. We are what informs the most ancient cultures. We go to Egypt, Kemet, whatever. Those ancient cultures, it's a known thing. They share origins with southern populations. They share origins with southern populations. And we are those southern populations. We gave birth to these people. I want to show you the Egyptian face hieroglyph. And you're going to tell me if you don't see a Southern African face there. Let's check the Egyptian face hieroglyph. And then we'll continue. We'll look at other Egyptian names. You will see just how all these things come back to us. Hey, my dudes, look at this face. This is the Egyptian face. It's called in the Gardner size of face. In the Gardner signs of face, it's khir. Khir. It's khir. Look at those ears. Look at that nose. There's no way that is the nose of Mo Salah. Let's look at Mo Salah quickly. Let's look at Mo Salah and see and compare with the Egyptian face. Oh, shame, Mo Salah, man. Oh, no. Oh, no. Dang. Nigga. It's not working, eh? It's not working. But if you check this man, you will see there's alignment here. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I think you can see his face here. You can see there's alignment, but you can't see the alignment here. I'm not sure what's happening. Mo Salah, my brother, hey, it's not looking good for you and your people. But anyway, that's not the point. The point, we're talking about the early populations who inform the culture of the region and the language of the region. They inform the culture of the region, the language of the region. Now, let's look at this. Let's look at Happy. Let's look at Happy. Let's look at the name. The name is Happy. This is a phonetic rendering. So the J is actually not J, it's Y. It's Happy. Happy. Or Happy. Happy. Right? What does Happy represent? Annual flooding of the Nile River. Annual flooding. This is a personification of the flood. That's why Happy is blue, like the water. Happy is green, like vegetation. Happy has a bit of boobs, like a nursing mother. Symbols of fertility. Symbols of fertility, fullness, overflow. Happy. Happy, muhapi, umgapi, he who overflows. We call it ukugaba. That is the word. Ukugaba, to overflow. That is the word. Now, happy is said to be, if you actually look here, let's look at this. Again, you can see Happy. Happy is a man, by the way. It's male. It's not transgender or anything. These are symbols of fertility. Remember, fertility, breasts are full of milk. He's not thin. You see, he's a bit fat to say there's abundance. He's not hungry. See, he's a bit fat here. They gave me a bit of umkaba. All right? They're giving him greenery, overflowing. Because it's abundance. So that is symbolism right there. That is symbolism right there. But Happy is said to be a friend of Geb. Happy was not regarded as the god of the night itself, but of the inundation event. That is to say, he was sort of like a personification of the flood itself. He was also considered a friend of Geb. Geb. Now, Happy is Umgabi. Geb. Actually, if you look at the name, it's Gaibeb. 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 Gaib refers to a place or the earth itself. Gaib in click form. Gaib. Or Gaibeb. The place or earth itself, or even the healing element of the earth. The friend of Umgabi, who brings about the silt from underneath the river. He's a friend of the earth because the earth is what contains the waters of the river. And you can see the color is the color of the earth. Again, these are not colors of humans, guys. I know people will like to say this is a human color. So what about the ones that are blue and green then? What about the ones that are blue and green? They are not humans, clearly. So we must not be desperate here. We must not be desperate. Then we had mentioned Atum here again. Oh, Geb is also Gabe or Umquba, all right? The earth, yes, Muquba. Umquba, the earth. Now, there's another one, Atum, one of the most important, perhaps the most important element in all of their belief systems. Because this one now is really the essence of existence and non-existence altogether. Atom is the very essence of existence or no existence. The name Atom comes from a root, a verbal form, yatima or tima or yatimao or timao. Timao, which means atimang, he who switches off, he who destroys. Tima is ukucima. Ukucima, to switch off, to destroy. They also call him the destroyer, by the way. Thus, he has been interpreted as being the complete one and also the finisher. In fact, Atum's name is thought to be derived from the verb tima. In its click form, it's ima, which means to complete or to finish. Ima is to finish, to complete, to switch off something, to finish it completely. Imi. It's uqimayo. Now, the word atom, people say the word atom is the same as the word atum. Atom, yes, the idea is absolutely the same thing, but we must get to understand how it gets to atom. Atom is cannot be destroyed. That's what it means, which is the inverse of the destroyer. It's still the same concept. Absolutely. Atom, same concept. But one is the inverse. So in expression, atom is the destroyer. Atom is the is indestructible. Because when you break something down, there's the concept that at some point it will get to a form that can no longer be broken down any further. Whatever that form is, that is the atom, the most basic element of anything. Now, atom sometimes is mixed up with Ra, and it gives us atum Ra. Oh, Sandile, why are you talking about these things? Well, we talk about the connection again with Cameroon, which is not there, by the way. We must show that there is no language group that you can find that will not link back to us. I said it. Origin, we are the source. Hebrew links back to us. Arabic will link back to us in many ways. Akkadian, Sumerian, Central African languages, ancient Kemet. Look at this Ra here. Ra. What is Ra? It really is the word we use. We use this word to do what? To explain when you are taking in the heat of the sun or the heat itself. When you take heat, or Ri'ah. When you take the heat of something, heat of fire, heat of the sun, we use this word here in South Africa. Go-ora letsatsi. Mrenaka. How ora letsatsi water ilanga. That's why in isiXhosa we use an alternative version of it. We say ta. We use an alternative version, ta, and then we take it further in a masculine form. We say tapa, Latin tapa, ilang, and then once we say tapa, we change into its click form, hapa. We take hapa ilang. Today you've got people like ngapai, the light source, light of the mind, light of the mind. Because when your mind is switched off, ima or imi, like atum or atumu or atimao, the one who switches off. When your mind is switched off, you have no ra in you. There's no light inside of you. There you go with the sun. You know, when the Portuguese came here in the south in the 1400s, you know they found a disc, a sun disk with the rays from the Kui peoples, the Chua peoples, the so-called sun bushmen today. A disk with rays of sun. We take then the Ra form again because the sun, because of its offensive energy. Offensive, I mean, it's forward going, it's not receiving. The sun doesn't receive, it gives. We masculinize it, it's taken as a masculine. Remember, the moon receives. Excuse me. The moon receives sun from the light from the sun. It reflects it. Like elders tell you, woman will reflect how you do to her. A woman will multiply what you give to her. You give her something bad, she multiplies it. You give her something good, she multiplies it, hopefully. Moon multiplies, moon reflects, moon disseminates the light which it receives from the sun, male and female. Sun emits the rays. The rays carry light. Light in form of particles called photons. Photons traveling at a speed called the speed of light. That's why now Albert Einstein says E is equal to mc squared. What he's saying is that energy is mass. The bigger the mass, the bigger the energy required to move it. It makes sense. The bigger the mass, the bigger the energy required to move it. Why do you think, you know how big spaceships are? Why do you think, not spaceships, rockets, they need so much energy to be moved, especially because they are moving against, you know, the natural direction of the weight. Weight, what is weight? Well, it's the mass multiplied by, you know, gravitational pull, the force of gravity. 9.8 meters per second, if I remember well. It's been a while since I looked at those things, but I remember because I learned these when I was a teenager still. So yeah. So for any mass to be able to do anything, you need an equally big amount of energy. The bigger the mass, the bigger the energy. The lower the mass, the lower the energy. Mass is equal to energy is mass multiplied by the speed of light. Speed of light is the speed with which photons, particles of light, which carry packages of energy, move from the sun. Now, this light we cannot see. We only see a very tiny portion of it, which we call the visible spectrum. We cannot see light. We see a visible spectrum and only the one that is reflected by surfaces. If there's nothing to reflect light, we don't see it. That's it. If there's nothing to reflect light, you don't see it. Even color, you don't see color. You see the one that is reflected. You see a green apple, that's because it reflected green from the visible spectrum. It absorbed all the other ones. So the truth is that green apple is every color but green. You see a blue shirt, it's not blue. Blue is the one that was reflected, all the others were absorbed. You get it? Absolutely. That's why space looks colorless. Nothing is reflecting light there. If there was something to reflect the light would be reflected. So you actually don't see light at all. Talk about infrared light. You know, red is on the further end of the visible spectrum. That's why we talk about Roy G. Biv. We talk about Roy G. Biv from red to violet, which means from red to blue. Red representing one opposite end and blue representing another opposite end. That's why then your red is the sun, your blue is the moon. The two opposing poles, the north and south, the male and female. Now we're getting into the mysteries of symbolism, because most of your presidents are wearing blue and red and you don't know where they get those orders or who set the rules for them to wear that. But if you noticed, where he wears red, he says certain things. When he wears blue, he says certain other things, because each have a message they're sending. They wear red and blue ties. Order. They know. Exactly. You take your red, you take your blue, you get something like purple. You take that purple, you give it to the bishops. Take that purple and that scarlet, you give it to the bishops and the emperors. They're playing with what you can see. So the visible spectrum is a very tiny portion of light that you see. But most of light you'll never see. We're just not evolved for that. We haven't even developed the technology to see these things. You get it? We haven't developed. So we call them by names. We call them infrared. Infra means below red. We don't know how many frequencies are there in infrared, but it's somewhere there. Also, there's ones we call microwave. It's light, it's packages of photons, microwave. The thing is with microwaves is that when microwaves interact with water, microwaves agitate the water particles. You know why water heats up inside the microwave? It's because the microwaves are hitting the water particles. The water particles get agitated. Through friction, they start moving angrily because they agitated. Yes, other stuff do get heated, but the more the water, the more dangerous interacting with microwaves is. Imagine you put your hand inside a microwave, But microwave have a specific wavelength. So what they did when they were creating microwaves? Because microwave can pass through glass. That microwave door, whatever it's called, that screen is not protecting humans. If microwaves hit humans, you will boil up, you will burn, because you're like 70 to 80% water. So you can't get into contact with microwaves. And I'm talking about waves, not the stove, the actual waves. Again, we're talking about light here. So there's different waves, from small wavelengths to big wavelengths. So microwaves are one of those waves that we can't see. We can't see that light, but we are able to determine when there's something that contains water, particularly. The water reacts, it gets heated up because of the friction between the water particles, and they boil. Now what you have is that door, that screen there is not protecting you, but there's a filament between you and the screen. There's a filament with little holes. Those holes are small enough to block the microwaves. But microwaves are natural almost. It's waves. They come from the sun. Or you mean the microwave stove, but the waves themselves are natural. Just like radio waves. Radio waves are a form of microwaves, by the way. Just a different frequency. And there could be other waves in between radio and micro. We just don't know them. That's what I mean. Like, we know what we see. The stuff we don't see, we just call them names. But we don't know how many variations within. We say infrared. How many types of infrared are there? So there are other species and creatures that are evolved for those things, like octopuses. Octopuses are evolved to see so many other things. They know these things exist. We can't. Even microwaves, we only know, okay, it's microwaves. And then another form of microwaves in a different frequency is called radio waves. And radio waves are a specific wavelength. That's why you need a specific length of your aerial so that the waves can, can connect. How the waves can connect. You need a specific, you can't have an aerial that is too short. It's not going to work. How are the waves good? It must connect with the wavelength. It is a literal length. So the microwaves, you must notice there's a filament there with little holes. Those holes are small enough to block the microwaves from penetrating the screen and hurting you. Otherwise, if a wannabe, if there was no quality assurance, if you go to the black market and there's no quality assurance, you find someone, they make a microwave for you, they can actually unalive you because the holes must be smaller than the wavelength of the microwaves themselves. So Ra is the culmination of those different rays, which are photons carrying that light energy. That is Ra. So you will see a lot of these personifications of Atum, of Amun. They will tend to have Ra next to them because it's almost universal. Almost many other things in the sphere of life interact with the sun in some form. They interact with the sun in some form. They need heat energy in some way. Okay? So you'll have Amun Ra, Atum, and then Ra, and many, many others will be connected with Ra. I want to talk about Amun now. Very important to me that I mention it. Perhaps before that, let me talk about the primordial water. Again, look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at the colors first. Remember, when something is a specific color, in real terms, it's not that color. It's every other color, but not that one. So it reflects it so your eyes can see it. Okay? So when you see blue in the sky, when you see blue in the waters, it's just a reflected color. This is Nun. What is Nun? Nun, the inert one, or Nu, the watery one. Also pronounced Na now. Na now. Or Noon. Old women in the village, they don't call water amans. Sometimes they call it water but sometimes they call water nunga. Nunga, amanunga. And you find it with the Kemets. You know, the Hebrews say water is mai. And the older women literally use amail. Yay! Oh man, we must move away from the past now. But how are you gonna learn? How are you gonna learn about these things? The ancient primordial chaos is Amanunga. The water is the original matrix of organic life, the original womb. Even the solid earth itself, we know it emerged out of the Nunga. The Geb emerged out of the Nunga. The Benben emerged out of the Nunga. What is the Benben? From the word Bana. The original building blocks. Hey, if I would go too deep, I think I would confuse people. I'm sorry. You see, in the past, you would take clay and burn the clay in the fire. When the fire comes, the clay burns, it becomes white, the brick is white, like bane. The word bane means to shine bright. Bane. You know, the original pyramids were shiny. They reflected the Ben. The original shiny blocks. The very word bane, which we use for electricity, we also use for lightning. Ubaneka. It's a word that means to shine, to sparkle, to reflect light. Now, the older blocks were burnt clay. They were made out of clay and would be burnt, and they would have a shiny look from afar. Bane, bane, the building blocks, the original primordial mound that rose from the Nuna, the chaos of water. That's why it is said the earth was formless and void and devoid. The earth. Formless and devoid, no shape whatsoever. Because there was a time the earth was covered in water. There was a time where a lot of places on earth were covered in water. The Table Mountain in South Africa, in Cape Town, was covered in water. That's why you have beach sand all over the top of the Table Mountain. High above, beach sand everywhere. It's as white as snow. Beautiful beach sand. Not only on top of the mountains, deep into Cape Town, all over the Cape Flats, it's marine sand everywhere. Kailija marine sand. Guguletu marine sand. These are inland areas, but they're full of sand because the waters were there. A lot of the Cape Flats was actually water because it's so flat, it was full of water. That's why there's not much history of humans living in the Cape Flats in the past, because it occasionally got flooded, that place, even with marine waters, like the actual sea water. Now, this Nunga, the primordial chaos, this Nunga, there's an aspect of which it's Chech. Chech, in other cultures, for example, if you go to Akkadia and Sumeria, you will have Kaka or Kakara, which is Chech, which is waters of chaos and flood. Kek or Kukura or Kakara, we call flood Isikukula. My point here is that these are natural elements. This is not stuff that are made up. These are natural elements that ancient cultures study. And they study these things and they know how to personify them. The ancient waters were deep and they covered the earth. You see in Cape Town, you go to the northern suburbs, it's sand everywhere, as people are mentioning. Bella, Kales River, sandy. Absolutely. And it's not just any sand, it's marine sand. It's sand from the sea. Mufukeng, before I close, my brother, tomorrow we're going to have a very long one. We're going to have a very long one, and you guys can come with questions. We're going to accept people for the first 30 minutes. If you guys have questions, you can join. The live will have started by 7, so yeah. Today's live was 3 hours long. Yesterday's live was 4 hours long. Tomorrow's live may be longer. Depends. My brother, if you have anything to say, now is the time.
Time and time again, for those who have been listening to some of the discussions that I've had, I've always said that there is no such thing as Egyptian gods. I've always said that these are natural elements or phenomenons, right? And
if you understood or understand how our ancestors relay stories, as you've been showing, there's a lot of metaphor, personification. Even the stars, they are personified or objectified as something else other than the star. Kidikolobe, Kidinja, it's hunters, all of that stuff. So same applies to all these natural elements or natural phenomenons. They are personified for easy reference for someone to understand. The very same way when you teach a kid stories, you relay them in a sesame rhyme so that they can remember it. So same applies to our ancient ancestors when they were relaying these stories. They were relaying these stories in this format. It was not just told straight, and a lot of it is covered under Islonipo, as you said, and poetry, which is something that people don't also like to take into account, that our people are poetic when they speak. If you listen to Ibongi, they are very poetic, and they use um, these poetic, what do you call, descriptions or sayings or phrases, you understand, to actually get their point across,
Yeah.
unlike just saying in layman's terms. So that is what I wanted to showcase, and you showcased it when you were doing this Egyptian analysis, so that people can actually see, man, there are no gods there. Every time these people are like, oh, these people were praying to many gods, polytheistic. It's nonsense. It's absolute garbage. Our people spoke in allegory. Yes, thank you. I wanted to use that. Our people spoke in allegory and similes and metaphors. That's how our people spoke, and hence those ancient stories are relayed like that. You need to be able to understand your language. You need to be able to understand how ancestors spoke, and you need to be able to read between the lines, because that's the thing. When people think that this is just a Bible verse, no, it's not. It's not straight like that. It requires one to actually apply themselves, which
Yeah.
is something that a lot of our people don't want to do. That's why when we started the talk, I said a lot of our scholars are intellectually lazy. They just take things at the surface. They don't want to go deep. So this analysis is an example of what we've been talking about, showcasing that when we do our own due diligence, instead of listening to Champollion, instead of listening to West Africans tell us about our story, we should be the ones that are doing our own due diligence, so that we can show them that, we don't come from Cameroon. Our language says otherwise. Our clan praises say otherwise. Our oral history says otherwise. The archaeological and scientific evidence says otherwise. So why are we still buying into these stories? Why are we still buying into the stories that our people come from Middle East? Why isn't it that we can actually find these stories, as you were even showing about Prometheus, fire? We've been saying that they even say that the cradle of humankind is here. But then why can't we now start, attributing all of these facts to the locals, or let me say the natives? Why? Why is it aliens all of a sudden? So you showcasing that we can find some of these natural aspects in our language and being expressed and explained using our understanding, our cosmology. Because if it was not there, then there would be a gap, and then we would dismiss the idea that no, we don't have a knowledge system. But it's there. We see it. We can find it. When we actively look for it, it's there. So we can't dismiss the facts. that are in front of our eyes. And
That's
that
right.
the actual key to all of this is this click languages that they are mocking. And I'm also saying it to my people that you can say whatever you want to say. You can say the Bushmen are ancient, what. If you haven't studied, I think you shouldn't say anything. If you haven't gone as far as to giving yourself the time to do your own due diligence with whatever knowledge system that you might have, pardon me, you know, especially for the people here. Because if you want to know, guys, there's a lot of people that are actually studying us.
Tamago.
A lot of people are studying us. A lot of our knowledge system hasn't actually been shared, like what you are doing right now. You have just showcased that our people has astrological and cosmological knowledge system and industrial knowledge system. In all this life, that's what we did. You understand? So if we're going to talk about, for instance, the burning of clay, Ben and Riri,
Yes, yes,
Yabenya, why are we finding
yes.
Benya in our language?
Mm,
Why? You get it? So from a linguistic perspective, we can start going into the other spheres of society. We can start going into industry. We can start going to astrology. We can go to all the spheres of our society, and we can find all of these correlations in all the cultures and all the nations here in Narimab. That's the most
Tamago.
important thing. Because if we were not finding it here, again, as I'm saying, we would dismiss the idea that, okay, we are not the cradle of humankind. So we must wear that badge with pride, but we must also equally have the understanding of our own systems,
Yes,
so that
sir.
we will be able to present it to the world, so that we will be able to show the world with facts, not fallacy,
Yes, sir.
with
Yes,
facts.
sir.
And facts that can be verifiable. That's the most important thing. As you said, we need people to be able to go and fact check what we're talking about. And they can come back if we are wrong.
Yes.
If you are also wrong, you understand? Because that's what a good researcher does. And I'm talking about everyone who is in this journey of self-discovery. You cannot be lazy intellectual, because our ancestors, they were not lazy. Like I said, it takes time for one to actually study those stars.
Yes.
You know, so I would like to close it there, Mhlegas. Thank you very much for tonight. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the live. Tamako.
Tamago, tikasap. Kaise qotsi. Kaise qotsi. Thank you very much. This is what I want to say. Tomorrow we're gonna continue. We're not stopping. We're gonna continue. Tomorrow I'm hoping that we're gonna have a 4-hour session. The first 1 hour I am going to dedicate to stars, but not just stars in the sense of naming them. We're going to tell a full story of Jupiter's family, his children. So we're going to look at the personified form of stars and how we still carry that knowledge today unknowingly, and link it to other cultures that have something similar that we have incorporated in our cultures. Think about the days of the week. Monday is the day of the moon. Tuesday is the day of Tiu. Wednesday is the day of Odin, the all-father of the Nordics. Thursday is the day of Donner or Thor, the personified thunder. Friday is the day of Freya. Saturday is the day of the planet Saturn or Saturn. Sunday is the day of the sun. So their culture has been superimposed on top of us. But when it comes to our stuff, some people are so deluded that even asking a simple clan name triggers so much fear in them. They think it's a demonic thing. I know someone who has said they don't use clan names because they are demonic. But they will use Wednesday any day. But it's a god of another culture. That's not demonic because no, it's fine. The people who use Wednesday have pale skin, so they are holy. You with dark skin, you demonic person. So it goes deep. You that damage with just words. You have to go deep and break the very fabric at a fundamental level, the very fabric of superimposed colonial systems. Because colonial systems are not just systems that say you can't own these hectares of land. Colonial systems are not just systems that say you can't have this kind of business, you can't study this kind of field. Systems that says your name has to be John and not Kuche. Now that's colonial. A system that says you can't be indigenous to South Africa, you came from Angola, you came from Congo, that is colonialism. The mind is being overtaken by a parasitic force that is actively moving against you. It's even worse when it's moving against you from within you. So you end up self-destroying now. And the thing is, you perpetuate your own oppression. And that is how powerful it is. So you have to undo the mental, psychological, and intellectual superimposed parasitic knowledge and systems by showing, firstly, demonstrating to the people what they are and what they have. You can't just say it's useless. Well, some people will say, no, these things are useless, they're in the past. Well, Wednesday is in the past because it talks about Odin, but it's not useless to you. So also the uselessness now is some form of discrimination. So this work, unfortunately, is going to have to take long. It's true as well. The usage of English right now, we're speaking in English because if I speak in my language, I'm sorry, people are not going to hear. And tell you what, you have to speak your language, guys, eh? You have to speak your language and do your very best to be very deep in your language. Even in the workplace. I used to work in George. Very Afrikaner-centric and very apartheid-like. Like, you see those old bakkies of apartheid, those bakkies that look like the vankie of the police. A lot of them are there in George. Even the buses look like you're in 1985 in George. But the problem is not the cars and the architecture. In George, it's the unspoken hierarchy. The hierarchy that a so-called black person knows exactly where their place is. A colored knows their place just above the black. And a white man knows his place above both. I was queuing. I was at the mall. I was buying pillows at this place. I don't remember the shop. Honestly, maybe at home, I don't know. But I was buying pillows. It was years ago. And as we're queuing here, an old white man comes, boom, to the front. And he believes that he should go to the front. And he believes that we should let him buy. He's not violent. He knows that people from George know. People from George know that it's his place. He must go and get served first. I was like, no. You must queue. Like the rest of us. It was such a huge culture shock for him, Shame. It was a massive culture shock. He couldn't understand what kind of people are these. Where are you guys from? Like, I'm not from George, so I'm not going to go by your George rules. I'm not from here. You see? And I've seen it in many other instances. I'm not going to mention them, but there are many other instances. Like you go to a restaurant. I used to go to this place that has Thai food. Simply Asia. I used to go, there's a soup there, Tom Yum. I used to go and get that Tom Yum soup. Then, obviously, the place is quite small, so I would sit outside. The black people in George, they could not believe it. They could not believe that you are here in town and you are eating at a restaurant. Even the white families, when they pass, they're looking at you like, ooh, what the hell? You're supposed to be in the township and drinking. Why are you eating healthy food on a Saturday? But the people from there know their place. They know. They're there in the township drinking at that time. They're shocked to see one of them is waking up. I'm like, no, I'm not from here, and I'm not gonna fall to this nonsense. So it's very systemic, it's linguistic, it's psychological, it's intellectual. Every single thing connects with that superimposed parasitic system of racism, of colonialism, and white supremacy. And it doesn't have to be perpetuated directly by a white person for it to be white supremacy. When you are replacing indigenous societies with revisionist history, that is white supremacy. When you're neglecting the communities where indigenous people live, like the ANC has been doing and the DA has been doing, and all the other political parties, they are all white supremacists. South African politicians are white supremacists because they are extending the heritage and legacy of white supremacy, and that is what it is. So the project that I run, Project Klingasi, is not just about stars and Gwinkia. It's about really getting the indigenous mind to bloody see and smell the bloody coffee and says, I have to do something. Let's do something. Let's sell amongst each other. Let's buy amongst each other. Can you make a shoe? Make me a shoe. You're an indigenous person. I want to buy from you. Oh man, it's going to be 4,000 Rand. Well, it's fine. I'll pay it. Because Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Michael Kors are racist. They're not going to help you with anything. Hugo Boss, a Nazi legacy company, is not going to help you with anything. Adidas, a Nazi company, is not going to help you with anything. Unless we say we have things of our own. We've built things. How do you know you've built things unless you study it? You see stone settlements. We used to make our own slabs of rock. We used to make our own fences. We built our own cities. I know you don't believe it because that's how the thing is set up. You don't believe that we built cities. You don't believe we had cities. Why people believe it though? They actually do believe it. And because they believe it, they will remove it out of every level of education. You will have a PhD and think like a 3-year-old. PhD holding 3-year-old thinker. You think like a 3-year-old. If something is not accepted by white peers in those peer reviewing nonsenses, then it's wrong. Guys, that's not how it works. You don't have to fit in to Western propaganda. You don't have to. You buy Sogamo from Cambodia, from Abelung. Absolutely. King Kong, it's owned by Jews. What's happening with the Piwe? Piwe, what's happening? Everything all right? So yeah. Tomorrow then we're gonna be doing about an hour of Star Law because I need to tell the story of the stars, the personifications more than anything, because that's what you see in a lot of European settings. These are personified. Then I want another hour dedicated to indigenous industry. Industry, what is industry? What is industry? Industry is the very state of industriousness of a people. Inkuthalo, intsebenzo yabantu jikelele. That is industry. Nikhuthele na. Niyasebenza na. That is industry. Bapedi will say shumela khaye. That is an industrial philosophy that they work with. Sebenzele khaya. That is an indigenous industrial philosophy. I don't see it anywhere in government official documentation where they talk about indigenous frameworks of building industries, indigenous frameworks of music, You don't see it. You can study music theory. You're not going to see anything about indigenous frameworks. And you're telling me you are advancing, heritage and art and culture. No art and culture is being advanced here. You're just fitting into the same system that stripped you of everything. That's why you don't know who you are now. So we'll look at industry. We'll look at, the heritage and the legacy of industry of our people. The fact that South Africa today is the most early rising country in the whole world is not by mistake, eh? And it's not necessarily a fault of apartheid. I know people like to attribute some things to apartheid. We are people who wake up early because we believe that the sun cannot shine before you and whilst you are still in bed. The sun must shine. You had already been awake by then, so that you can observe the red dawn. You can observe Kawe. You see? If you are someone who sleeps all the time, the sun rises. We say ilanga likusele, uselwe lilanga, the sun has overtaken you. So we are a culture that wakes up, and that has to do with industry. I don't think lazy people would be up at 4 a.m., guys. I'm sorry. I really do not think a lazy society wakes up at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m. That's just propaganda. But we are the lazy ones, eh? So you have to then learn about indigenous industry and the fundamental intellectual basis of it, the framework that guides what we consider as ukhuthalo or intsebenzo, mishumo, ntiro. Then, lastly, the last section I'm going to have to look at is the linguistics, which is the fabric that connects all of these things. I'm going to have to give that an hour again. It's important when I do linguistics because then at least it's something that you still have with you that you can grasp immediately. So I'm hoping that's going to be 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. Then we can, yeah. Amako. Thank you very much to brother Kukuche. Kaisekha Kauti Tikai Kasap. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you guys need something from me, you know where to find me. Thank you, Kamago, and thank you for joining. Bye-bye.